냠제 전부도 유미종 또는 전부가 자다 다그러 다른 전도 실문도 또만 제자라기 쇼잘.
To liberate sentient beings, please generate the supreme bodhicitta before we start today's teaching.
심정상 제시와 망보 남아데 동삼김에 저차디아메 지든 공범 쇼르제와데 다 지든 공범 공쇼르제와데 도장 담더 남너 앞더 tombrnger Ganga Sanji Yi Zangme Ba and the La Chok Shi and Zapa, Jitter Number and Jimba de Talam Keba Donam Taijir Chun the Tuni Sanji Manjerva Simchin de Donam Chikyang made the Shanji Shirkil and the Shopra and Jit in the Devjan Shabar. Devjan Shanar Mulam Mo, Churgoshi or Tom Chok Tamada, Mount in a raptor Tom Girde, Tabachi Bondonum Montunjan, Devjan Shabanit, the Churtunger, Chujin Zerta Nevada, Chujiraja, Start the Woksara, Kani Tamba Namki, Kani Tamba Sandir Namkine, Nai Tabachi. Stombringer Chuji ne der med Chunin Jitin Danarto de Marione, Sai Nyambo Shancho, Sanje de Talam Kebashan der Stombringer Hammer Namjim Choba Sanjir Nama Choju Bakan Goshi Marnidan, Donor Chocha Tamchel Dever Shir Teder Namjang Tabam Chondan Chat. Jivi Savshondana Santine, Tavlam Kibar after Tumzajang, Tabar Namba Tata Mumber and Chat Tagba, Chigba, Yonsur Tumzaba, Lijin Kenji, Shuba, Rigdota, Division Shmunchet, Chib Gum Chib Samba, Deim Tadang Sonji, Namjang, Shinda Tapam Kine, Raptorton, Jemba Ishi Stopki, Rigimanda, Huedan, Jian Mambo Raftonde, Semchin Mubar Namba Rignen, Sanji Mubar Semchin Muba, Nazo Rignen, Nazom Gumber Jeba Neverton, Tarta Yerwa, Jemba Ngayon, Semchin Namla Devi, Shirim Jong, Te, Nazo Jeba, Shir, Tomchak, Sanji Shanchim Dana Yang Tan, Chochar Namji Mudan, Samkin, Churnam. Churnam Namba Mambo Rapshate, Namba Nazo Taki, Ga Kidandan, I Rangi Shito, I in Tongwa, Semchin Wolvornam, Share of Sonam, Namdam Charanger, Kora Shanjam Yan, Jigba Nama, the Genda Shandam Nabate, Trepe Chapa, Rekar Namajan, Dope, and the Starter Dobrish, Donrishi. San Jem Tachin Namjam Mansur Jan, Dungaram Tan, Roa, Chumansur, Roa, Chubor Nams, Zimbasem, Lober Tomer Tava, Mayone, Dungarai, Dungar Ramyova, Dela Ngai, Jertokiti, Shanchur Nyambur, Terna, Naisem Jan, Damchoksam, the Summer, Ravne de, Anandanji, Tonla, Rapsem Jan, Tonla Dobo, Tola Dobo, Tertinin. Shamcho de la Mugman Zimberta, Di Jone Pansen Chang, Chagjan, Yishi Dambi, Yishi in the Natambang Mumserte, Sanjin the Mumke, Htamurdon, Simpson the Mumke Htamurdon, they sing a la Tanda, Yapshan down, Wangshik Chedan, Jistin Jungwa Je, Division. Wangshik Dagjan Surn Division, Wangshik Dagjan Surn Debte, Hardam Share, Tomchok Mamboya, Tamcha Tarmo Jarne Keeper and Good. Dornum Chitravana Raptor Sam Naiv Shancho, Yondun Hungarnena, Semchin Dato de Hurok Zero Arte, Nai Chula Shibi Logener Ker, Tester Kerning Andrew Son Andrew Sonis, Nga. Ngayod ma shida gar gerajan anda joram nyan darla nyam ngunji sandir namda tetak tamke chirtar yana rapchande ngejang dartar sanje shanchim de nambaksum den ndirshida rapta shada ngai tonde tirtir samba ne chobje sanje tetak janji kyang tetak rang li kyang rangtan ne tedak ngaftan ne Lagji Shavi, Dryang Rabjak de Turban, Jiktin number and Jimbim Cho, Lana maybe Ishi Durtone, Tavlam Kebar, Namlap Samba, Jiktin Jimbar Namji, Jislov Lag, Ngejan Tambir, Nena Tobi, Tse, Nambak Sam, the Shirte Raptor Tun, Keba Mayan Tapa Chong Sanjir Namla Tapar Manjirte Tewing Jirnam Rabdi Pe Tavlam Keba Namna Rabjet Chang Rafjet Chang driven dopa Yonsu Joshe de Shanchu Sanhua Mambo Tag Yang Tag Zud Kiev Chemcho Tag Yogon Ja Tune Dece Ngana Garnjerwe Gavi Semgi Kyopa Tetag La Zhang Chong Cheji Zhang Chong Chemcho Tonyo Sombar Te Keba Jikten Jembe Sombar Tar Dagjang Devjan Kyapur Kiji Ba Nganan Chigdang Mobza Pai Tse Semchin Nigmer Gyurvi Nandar Kye Tertir Ngerig Nena Shari Dei Tsena Wara Nasra Song Dena Gerlong Ngabo Taglayang Ravji Sana Chuna Tapki Shat Dene Ngai Chujin Kurlo Kur Nyangan Debi Jayang Jikten Jong Rapchum Jadang Devjin Chuji Ja Gendan Jayang Detse Jong Lojang Manyong Warna Rapsha To Nyangan Debi Sayang Ngumbar Tan Kuri Dungaram Tanan Dayan Ji Devjin Stagpar Dis Nge Me So
Now, let's now talk about the important Lotus Sutra. In the profound and revered Lotus Sutra, we are now meticulously discussing the second chapter. Previously, we extensively talked about how countless enlightened Buddhas in the distant past expounded the singular and profound one vehicle Dharma. They temporarily taught the three vehicles, but ultimately revealed the one vehicle. Today, we will extensively discuss all future Buddhas. They too will temporarily teach the profound Dharma of the three vehicles. But in the end, they will ultimately expound the singular one vehicle Dharma. Now, regarding the present Buddhas, including the revered Shakyamuni Buddha, who is a central figure, how exactly did he attain Buddhahood? The entire comprehensive process of teaching the profound one vehicle Dharma to all sentient beings. We have already discussed this in detail earlier yesterday. From a worldly perspective, offering flowers, reciting the Buddha's name, making offerings, circumambulating stupas, building stupas, and creating images. All of these have been explained. After we study the Lotus Sutra, on one hand, everyone should also understand that ultimately all phenomena are of one taste and one essence. Some Buddhist scriptures, for instance, say, indeed, for example, what are the three vehicles? In the conventional world, they are divided into three vehicles. What exactly is the one vehicle? In the ultimate sense, it is the unique emptiness. The profound teaching of the inseparability of emptiness and luminosity is called the one vehicle. So, from both the conventional and ultimate perspectives, the three vehicles or the one vehicle are explained separately. Today we will continue to discuss the future Buddhas, the world-honored ones. In actual fact, their number is also truly immeasurable and utterly boundless. Those individuals who will attain complete Buddhahood in this world in the future Buddhas will be just like the Buddhas of the past. As numerous as the countless grains of the Ganges River, they are truly immeasurable and utterly boundless. These Tathagatas will also teach some expedient and skillful methods. Originally, the Buddha knows that ultimately all phenomena in their true nature do not have two vehicles or three vehicles. The two vehicles, three vehicles, even up to five vehicles, and so on, none of these truly exist in reality. But temporarily speaking, these future Buddhas will also, for the benefit of countless sentient beings, continue their compassionate work and efforts, providing guidance and liberation. They will also speak of the one vehicle and skillfully teach accordingly. All Tathagatas use countless skillful means, and these skillful means are not just one or two kinds, but should be understood as innumerable skillful means. For example, in front of sentient beings, they manifest all sorts of bodily forms. Some sutras often say that in order to truly benefit all sentient beings, the Buddha manifests as esteemed Brahmins, influential ministers, and powerful kings, including some noble animals, such as majestic elephants and fine horses, and so on. He even appears as humble beggars, unfortunate prostitutes, skilled hunters, and so forth. There are all kinds of forms to benefit sentient beings. When the Buddha speaks with discriminating words, it is also empowered by wisdom. He uses all sorts of different forms, allowing sentient beings to have negative discriminating thoughts, then gradually guiding them onto the right path. In terms of language, the Buddhist scriptures also contain countless and various skillful means to benefit sentient beings. In fact, the ultimate purpose of all these enlightened Tathagatas is to truly liberate countless sentient beings and to truly lead them toward the wisdom utterly free from all defilements. Right now, most of the wisdom possessed by sentient beings is considered to be defiled wisdom, because it is thoroughly mixed with greed, anger, and ignorance, and is indeed tainted by the 6 defiled gateways which lead to suffering. In the Abhidharma Kosha, as you all should clearly remember, if any sentient being hears this Dharma, whether hearing the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful Dharma or hearing the profound teachings of the Mahayana, not a single one will fail to become a Buddha. This is very crucial. This time, as we attentively listen to the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful Dharma, some people might not know, perhaps. They may not really understand what the meaning of reciting the transmission is or things like that. But as I mentioned earlier, if you don't know about this transmission, of course it is quite understandable that you won't fully grasp this. And in actual fact, because you don't know the importance of transmission, you might say certain things, and that's also understandable. Because in this truly very particular era, whether you have a really valid reason or not, many people often just say whatever comes to mind. We don't deny this important point either at all, nor do we argue with them. There's really no need whatsoever. But in actual reality, when it comes to the complete sacred Dharma teachings, we also sincerely hope that unless there are truly special circumstances, at the very least, the lineage can be fully transmitted. So what does it mean for the lineage to be complete? It means that this Lotus Sutra of the wonderful Dharma is heard in its entirety by everyone. Of course, right now we are transmitting it to everyone in 2 languages. First, we recite it in Tibetan, if our dedicated volunteers are truly very busy indeed. There was a period recently when some of our volunteers here were especially busy. I told them, if you really are too busy, just listen to the Tibetan transmission, which only takes a few minutes, less than 10 minutes to finish. After you finish listening, you can go back to your work. If there's really no other way, then that's all we can do. But I don't really mean that everyone should just use being busy as an important excuse to, of course, break the transmission. But it's best to use Tibetan first and then Chinese. That way, in case there are any significant omissions in between, you'll still hear everything. As long as you listen to such profound Mahayana teachings, such supreme teachings, you will greatly benefit. Ultimately, you will attain complete Buddhahood. Actually, if we listen to the teachings with genuine motivation and a joyful heart, the merit is truly inconceivable. Of course, for those people who don't truly believe in karmic cause and effect, that's another matter entirely. Even if you don't have such proper motivation, just hearing it clearly with your own ears. In fact, there is also great merit in this. You might also remember as well, in the Sutra of Wise and Foolish at that time, the elder Anathapindika, also known as Sudatta. Sudatta often invited respected monastics to his beautiful home to make generous offerings regularly. At that time, he kept 2 intelligent parrots. These clever parrots had naturally learned to say things like welcome and so on, and would often politely greet the visiting guests with such warm phrases. Later, on one particular occasion, it was Venerable Ananda who was invited to receive offerings. At that time, the Venerable found it quite truly remarkable. He said something, and the parrot would faithfully repeat it. The Venerable then taught it the profound Dharma of the 4 Noble Truths: suffering, origin, cessation, and path. After that, the parrot kept repeating it, constantly reciting the meaning of the 4 Noble Truths: suffering, origin, cessation, and path. Of course, it didn't have any real capacity for thought. After receiving this Dharma, it would keep flying back to its tree to recite it. But at night, much later, a wild predatory cat unfortunately ate it. Both of the parrots were completely eaten by the wild predatory cat, but afterwards they were miraculously reborn into the 6 desire heavens, specifically within the heaven of the 4 great kings. They were reborn in the heavenly realm 7 times, over and over again. Later, they eventually obtained human bodies and subsequently attained the ultimate fruits of sainthood. There are indeed such stories, which everyone should have certainly seen or perhaps studied. So generally speaking, animals do not truly have the intention or the motivation to listen to the Dharma. However, if sound of Dharma or voice of noble truths reaches their ears, they can achieve fruition. This story from Chinese text, Forest of Pearls in Garden of Dharma, Faiwan Julin, is same as story found in great commentary on aspiration for rebirth in Pure Land. It was about a person who was herding cattle, and while he was herding, the Buddha was teaching the Dharma, and he found it very pleasant to listen to. He leaned heavily on his staff and listened intently while resting comfortably on it. It turned out that, surprisingly, there was a small frog directly under his staff. As a result, the staff unfortunately ended up inadvertently piercing the frog. In the end, the venerable old man was also attentively listening to the profound Dharma, and the small frog died peacefully while hearing the sacred sound of the Dharma. Later, both individuals were reborn into the blissful heavenly realms, according to the ancient story. This story exists both in Tibetan Buddhism and also in Chinese Buddhism. Therefore, when we truly listen to the Dharma, of course, if you don't believe in anything at all, not even in cause and effect or anything else, don't believe in the Buddha, don't believe in the Buddhist scriptures, then there's probably no point in us talking to you about it. For example, there is a patient you see who is here. This patient is actually very seriously ill. But when he eventually goes to the local hospital for treatment, if he doesn't believe in any of the prescriptions or the doctors, then no matter what the doctor does, there's no way to treat him. It's the same principle. So sometimes we should also take a look at our own minds. The merits of listening to the Dharma, especially this precious time, listening to the sacred Lotus Sutra teachings, many sincere people should feel great joy and have strong faith. Of course, during this spiritual process, there may also be some temporary setbacks. Setbacks are completely normal. Even in the time of Shakyamuni Buddha, so many people regressed, so it's even more easily understandable in our modern time. That's just precisely how it truly is. But for individual people, from the perspective of transcending worldly liberation, there should be great merit. There are also worldly benefits, such as longevity and health. In the Chinese tradition, there is a biography called the Lotus Sutra biography, related to the Lotus Sutra. In the Lotus Sutra biography, there is a story about a novice monk. There was a young novice monk who became ordained at the age of 7. Later he met a fortune teller. The fortune teller solemnly said, "Your lifespan is indeed extremely short. It's truly impossible for you to live for a very long time." Afterwards he went back. After returning, he went out again and stayed at a temple. There he heard a monk reciting the Lotus Sutra. Actually, in the past in China, there were quite a few people who recited the Lotus Sutra. But nowadays, it seems there aren't that many, as we all know. People may say they study the Lotus Sutra, but in reality, how many truly learn it? How many people actually give teachings on the Lotus Sutra? How many people truly recite the Lotus Sutra? Everyone should be able to see this clearly. At that time, when he heard the monk reciting the Lotus Sutra, he was overjoyed. Later, he probably bought a copy of the scripture himself. He brought it home and recited it for 3 days. Then, after some time, he met the fortune teller again. The fortune teller said, "Your lifespan has been extended to 90 years old." He asked, "Did you encounter something miraculous?" Actually, in the past, there were some fortune tellers. For example, in ancient India, there were also some Brahmins. By reading a person's features, they could know his lifespan and the events of his life. Even now, some fortune-telling is indeed quite accurate. They have their own clever methods, but some of them may not be genuine. But regardless of that, it is sometimes believed that reciting the profound Lotus Sutra can indeed extend one's lifespan. This particular practice is considered to be very effective and remarkably potent. As we are diligently studying this significant topic at this time, I believe that many people are deeply attached to life, including longevity, health, and their own well-being. The blessings of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are truly inconceivable, especially the Lotus Sutra, which is blessed by so many Buddhas. So many great masters and accomplished beings have relied on it to attain realization. We too should, with a joyful heart, regularly make offerings to the Dharma text. We should often recite some of the words from the Lotus Sutra and frequently chant certain profound passages from the sacred sutra, which is indeed very meaningful and significant. This is precisely what I just mentioned earlier as a key point. If there are those who hear the Dharma, not a single one will fail to become a Buddha. In the past, when I taught other profound Dharma teachings, I also consistently used this very important scriptural proof. These future Buddhas, with their immense wisdom, originally made such solemn and far-reaching vows. What are these vows? First, the Buddha himself practices the path to Buddhahood. That is, he attains the fruit of unsurpassed, complete enlightenment. Then he profoundly wishes for all sentient beings throughout the entire world to ultimately attain complete and perfect liberation. In precisely the same way, all Buddhas are like this as well, embodying the same compassionate aspiration. Past Buddhas were also exactly like this, and so too is the present Buddha. Therefore, one must diligently practice such a profound path. These future Buddhas, although they have indeed spoken of hundreds of thousands of billions of different countless and boundless Dharma gates, in the ultimate and profound sense, they are all truly of the one vehicle. Each and every Buddha has taught an extremely large and vast number of Dharma gates, and these teachings encompass a wide array of profound principles, all leading to enlightenment. Hundreds of thousands of billions. But in the ultimate sense, it is the one vehicle of the inseparability of emptiness and luminosity. The Sutra of Golden Light. The Dharma realm is without distinction, therefore there is no different vehicle. The Dharma realm has no distinction, so there are no different vehicles. A different vehicle here refers to a vehicle that is of a distinctly different nature or type. For the sake of benefiting sentient beings, the three vehicles are explained separately. For the sake of benefiting sentient beings, the teachings are explained as three vehicles. So, in the Sutra of Golden Light, it is also said the Dharma realm that we speak of is actually of one taste and one essence. There is nothing else. If the Dharma realm is of one essence, then when we speak of the terms or vehicles of the Dharma realm, the vehicles also cannot have distinctions. There simply aren't any. However, because many sentient beings, even though the Dharma realm is truly one, are unfortunately unable to fully grasp this profound truth, the Ornament of Clear Realization says, because of the differences in those who rely on the Dharma, distinctions are explained. Originally, the Dharma realm has no distinctions at all, but from the perspective of those who rely on the Dharma, distinctions must be explained. This is also how it is explained in the Ornament of Clear Realization. So when we speak about the ultimate and singular one vehicle, it is important to understand that all future Buddhas will also teach in precisely this same manner. In fact, the Buddha is truly the supreme being among all those with 2 feet, regardless of the specific Dharma that is taught. There are 2 explanations for supreme among those with 2 feet. One is that 2 feet refers to humans, the most supreme, most remarkable among humans. Or 2 feet refers to the 2 perfections of wisdom and merit. If we compare our own wisdom and merit, some people possess only one of the 2. Their wisdom may be quite good, but their merit is lacking. Some people, in terms of merit, have accumulated sufficient merit, but their wisdom is lacking. The Buddha, however, is completely and utterly perfect in both aspects. He profoundly knows that all phenomena are always empty of any inherent nature or self-existence, because all phenomena fundamentally lack inherent existence. This is the profound principle of emptiness, a core teaching. And then the Buddha lineage arises from dependent origination. The Tibetan version and the Chinese version here are a bit different. In Chinese it says that all phenomena are without self-nature. But as for the Buddha's lineage or seed, it manifests through dependent origination. All phenomena are without self-nature. Yet, within appearances, there is also dependent origination. It is the one vehicle. Why did the Buddha teach the one vehicle? This is the reason. If we explain it according to the Tibetan translation, the Buddhas are indeed the supreme among those with 2 feet. They profoundly know that all phenomena are always without inherent nature, that their very essence is without self-nature. All phenomena are inherently luminous and radiantly clear. They know that phenomena are always without nature and know that phenomena are always luminous. Perhaps the Tibetan understanding is a bit better here. Why did the Buddha say that all phenomena are of the one vehicle? The reason for teaching the one vehicle, from the perspective of emptiness, all phenomena are without self-nature. From the perspective of appearance, their luminosity exists without separation or union. Therefore it is called the one vehicle. No matter what the phenomenon is, luminosity and emptiness are inseparable and indistinguishable. Perhaps the Tibetan version is a bit more convenient in this regard. You can also compare with various other available translations by other truly great masters as well. There are also English translations in many other languages available. In fact, there are many modern versions in different languages. We should keep our minds a bit more open. Don't immediately reject other Dharma texts when you see them, saying, oh, this isn't right, that isn't right. If we do that, perhaps our attitude towards learning, if we are too self-centered sometimes, we may not be able to broaden our own thinking. We should definitely refer to other authoritative translations much more often and carefully. Then use your own inner wisdom to observe deeply and reflect very thoughtfully. This is about the precious Dharma that will be taught in the future. There is also a line, these Dharmas abide in their Dharma positions. The characteristics of the world abide constantly. This too can be explained in this way. What else does the Buddha need to know about all phenomena? He knows that all phenomena abide in their respective Dharma positions. Abiding in their Dharma positions means in their very nature, the essence of all phenomena abides in the inseparability of luminosity and emptiness in such a position of the Dharma. In other words, the essence of all phenomena is emptiness. Then the characteristics of the world abide constantly. Likewise, from the conventional perspective, the worldly appearances of all phenomena are also abiding. That is to say, the emptiness of ultimate truth and the appearances of conventional truth are inseparable. Realizing the truth at the place of practice, during his path of cultivation, after the Buddha understood this principle, this is why the teacher expounded skillful means to sentient beings. Sometimes he would teach doctrines that focus primarily on luminosity, and at other times he would emphasize emptiness. There are also times when he would focus on worldly phenomena, and when he explained the teachings from the perspective of appearances and conventional truth, others found it easier to accept. Once one is able to understand this principle, he would then begin to teach deeper doctrines, those of emptiness and the ultimate one vehicle. Therefore, the Buddha taught through skillful means, and these skillful means are indeed very important and quite significant. This includes some Dharma teachers and lay practitioners as well, who should always act with truly skillful means in whatever they do. The Buddha's only method for liberating sentient beings was not to tell everyone, everything is really just emptiness, everything is emptiness. He did not say, you shouldn't use prayer wheels or malas, everything is emptiness. The Buddha taught using skillful means. He used worldly virtuous routes to lead them step by step, starting with teaching simple emptiness, breaking through one extreme, to leading them forward. But some of us go straight to the point, even to those who have never taken refuge, saying, come here, I'll give you a Dzogchen transmission, or come here, I'll teach you about emptiness. I myself have studied the root verses of the Middle Way before. The root verses of the Middle Way says nothing truly exists. Come, let me explain. But this approach lacks skillful means. In fact, gradually, step by step, the inherent capacities of all sentient beings are not all precisely the same at any given moment in time. They mature in distinct groups, one after another. When one particular group fully matures, they are then led to their ultimate liberation. Then the process continues with the next group. Worldly education works the same way. It's impossible for all education in the world to be the same for everyone. When you first start kindergarten, it's impossible to teach them PhD level courses right away. So it's the same when each sentient being enters the Dharma. When someone first enters Buddhism, don't understand, if you immediately start teaching them esoteric teachings, in the Western world, things are often a little bit out of order. I have personally visited a few schools, and in the end, I simply couldn't take it anymore. Some college students have truly offended a significant number of teachers. I said, if I've offended them, so be it. I won't come next time, and I don't want to come either. But sometimes when you say you won't come, they actually invite you instead. That's how it is sometimes. Because honestly, sometimes I just can't stand it. They don't value the preliminary practices, nor do they value the basics of listening and contemplation. They just go straight to teaching the highest Dzogchen teachings. Some esteemed professors often say Dzogchen isn't anything special or unique at all, and the heart essence of the Dakinis. And the heart essence of the Veds isn't anything special either. There are opinions like this, and that's not good. Of course, some professors and some practitioners are actually very good, because in the past, many truly great masters have spread the Dharma there. Later, they also practice step by step. The West isn't entirely bad, but some people's views there are completely different from those of certain people here. They're indeed totally different. In this case, we still need skillful means in our Dharma methods. We shouldn't, even when we're spreading the Dharma, not even know what the person's actual capacity or their disposition truly is, and then they just start teaching them directly. Some of our Dharma teachers and counselors nowadays, they don't even look at what kind of audience they are actually facing. They just hold a book, look up at the sky, and talk on, making things sound grand and flowery. This way it doesn't really benefit anyone. In the past, His Holiness also said. There was a renowned Khenpo named Daze who quoted a very extraordinary number of scriptural sources, but the people below truly couldn't understand him at all. Later, his root guru sometimes criticized him, saying, What's the use of spending so much time memorizing so many scriptural citations? If it doesn't benefit those listening below, then what you teach is actually useless. So, whether we're counselors or Dharma teachers, we should look at whether the people below can actually accept what we're saying. Some may find that their own wisdom can't keep up with the audience. Some people have wisdom that far surpasses others, but the people below can't keep up with you. Whether it's a conversation or an exchange between teacher and student, there are often some significant obstacles. So we need to observe very skillfully and utilize skillful means. So what exactly have we been talking about above? It's primarily about the skillful means of the future Buddha, the entire process of teaching the Dharma of the three vehicles. Now, let's begin to talk about the present Buddhas. The present Buddhas of the 10 directions, who are revered and offered to by humans and gods, also appear in the world in numbers as countless as the sands of the Ganges. Earlier we talked about past Buddhas and future Buddhas. Now we are talking about present Buddhas. They too, for the sake of bringing peace and benefiting countless sentient beings, have also taught such Dharma. Temporarily, it is the Dharma of the three vehicles. Ultimately, it is the one vehicle. The Sutra of Contemplation on the Mind Ground says, if the Tathagata does not appear in the world, all sentient beings will fall into evil paths. If the Tathagata does not manifest in this world, all sentient beings will fall into the net of deluded wrong views, which is truly pitiable. We who are present here are also fortunate to have encountered such truth. If we had not encountered the truth, truly in this lifetime, we would not know how long we would remain confused. When we die, we might not even know the basic principles of suffering, emptiness, and non-self. In that case, in the next life and the life after that, we would continue to wander endlessly forevermore. So, at the very least, in this lifetime, we have planted such virtuous roots. I deeply feel that this is truly a great fortune amidst terrible misfortune. It is for the compassionate sake of bringing lasting peace and genuine benefit to such suffering, sentient beings that the Buddha expounded such profound teachings. The present Buddha clearly knows the supreme nirvana, which is indeed the ultimate truth and the profound nirvana of emptiness itself. But such nirvana, in fact, is explained through various skillful means. Although what the Buddha knows is the teaching of supreme nirvana, the teaching of emptiness and luminosity, inseparable and non-dual, it is a profound and all-encompassing truth. But to directly expound this before sentient beings is very difficult. Therefore, skillful means are employed. Although various paths are taught, such as the 5 paths, the 10 grounds, and the 3 vehicles, ultimately, in the most definitive sense, it is still the one vehicle. From the Buddha's profound perspective as well, in the ultimate end, it is still the one vehicle. He fully knows the various behaviors and actions of all sentient beings and truly knows the innermost thoughts, ideas, and all kinds of deluded notions within their minds. He also knows the past virtuous and non-virtuous actions of sentient beings, including their habitual tendencies and desires, their consistent habits and their unwavering diligence, as well as the sharpness or dullness of each individual sentient being's spiritual faculties, and so on. Because the Buddha clearly knows all the past karmic actions and deeply ingrained habitual tendencies of countless different sentient beings throughout time, whereas we ordinary beings do not. When we actually see a person, I often ask, when someone new comes, what is your level? They say, I graduated from such and such university. Wow, that's a very good university. Some people say, I'm an engineer, I'm an architect, I'm a professor, I'm a teacher, I'm a beggar, I'm this or that. All kinds of people from various walks of life. If on the surface you truly seem like a very pitiable and unfortunate person, it might not actually be the case. If on the surface you appear to be very impressive and remarkably capable, that might not be true either. So, generally speaking, the actions and habitual tendencies of sentient beings, including their habits and desires, these things are very hard to know. But the Buddha knows all of these, sentient beings' deep inner minds, behaviors, and all their habitual tendencies. We might be able to know someone's behavior basically after spending some time with them. For example, if someone has a really bad temper, anyone who interacts with them will get burned. You have to be careful not to touch them, not to get close to them. A lot of people are a bit afraid, Because if someone has a bad temper, over time they start to become known for it. If someone is quite wise, they also gradually become well known. Actually, some people become famous by promoting themselves in all sorts of ways. Some people don't need to deliberately promote themselves. There's a kind of invisible yet powerful promotion through their actions, making them widely and prominently known among the general public. Of course, in today's contemporary society, some individuals would rather possess a negative or even infamous reputation than remain completely unknown or obscure. Even if it's a bad reputation, they're willing to spread it. That's how society is nowadays. We may only know about someone's reputation and actions on the surface, but the Buddha is not like that. He completely understands all sentient beings. That's why, using various causes and conditions, analogies and words, he teaches according to circumstances, offering skillful means. He turned the Dharma wheel 3 times, teaching 84,000 Dharma gates. And in our sacred Tripitaka, there are indeed so many profound teachings for the vastly different capacities of each and every sentient being, for diverse beings. Some people are more prone to greed, some to anger, and some to jealousy. But in the Buddha's profound teachings, as long as you truly search, you will always find the specific and appropriate medicine that is perfectly suited to alleviate your particular affliction or suffering. This profound concept is primarily about the present Buddhas, those enlightened beings who are currently active in our world. Next, we will specifically delve into a more detailed discussion about Shakyamuni Buddha, who is indeed one of the most prominent and revered among these present Buddhas. Now, I too, for the immense benefit and lasting peace of all sentient beings, there are also all kinds of Dharma methods. He turned the Dharma wheel 3 times, and there are so many exoteric and esoteric teachings. Proclaiming the path to Buddhahood, first, he temporarily taught the 3 vehicles in front of sentient beings, and then he taught the ultimate one vehicle. The Buddha said, "With my wisdom, I know the intricate minds and profound desires of all sentient beings, as well as their various and diverse karmic forces, their distinct behaviors, and their unique personalities, and so on and so forth. After understanding this, I skillfully teach accordingly, so that sentient beings may truly gain profound joy, lasting happiness, and ultimate liberation." Joy is important, but even more important is to help them attain liberation. If you don't truly feel joy, you really won't want to enter. If you don't enter, then it's simply impossible to study. If you don't study, it's truly impossible to attain spiritual liberation. That's why a joyful mind is indeed very important. We should have a joyful attitude toward the Dharma. Some people seem to have no joy toward the Buddha at all, nor do they feel any genuine joy toward the Dharma. The only thing is, when they get to eat some truly good dishes, wow, they have no energy or enthusiasm whatsoever when listening to a class, and gradually their attitude becomes more and more irritable and difficult. But if they have a meal, or immerse themselves in a captivating worldly television series, at that particular time they become exceptionally energetic and vibrant. Even the very manner in which they carry themselves and walk exhibits a noticeable and distinct change. The Buddha told Shariputra, "Shariputra, you should know that when I observe with the Buddha's wisdom eye, I actually see the beings in the hell, hungry ghost, and animal realms, as well as humans, gods, asuras, all sentient beings of the 6 realms. Among them, there are so many who are truly pitiable. Some are extremely poor. They can't even meet their basic needs for living. Actually, our situation here is still relatively okay, but there really are some places in the world, as I've mentioned many times before. If you go to some of those extremely impoverished places, the experience would be quite profound and deeply impactful. Some individuals lack merit and wisdom indeed, and many sentient beings are trapped in the perilous paths of samsara and the continuity of their suffering, such as the suffering of separation from loved ones, the suffering of suffering itself, and the suffering of change. All kinds of profound suffering continue without end, constantly tormenting them without any pause whatsoever, yet they remain deeply and persistently attached to the 5 desires, the 5 sensual pleasures of form, sound, smell, taste, and touch. It's like how yaks are especially fond of their tails. This is the nature of yaks in general. So, for example, when yaks are in the forest or encounter something, for example, in the dense forest, or if something unexpected happens, it will be extremely careful, always gently wagging its tail, afraid of getting it dirty or soiled. Even if some dirt happens to get on its precious tail, it will diligently try every possible way to shake that dirt completely off. It is simply born with an extraordinary inherent fondness for its tail. When we talk about upholding precepts, we often use the vivid example of a yak's tail, which is a very well-known analogy, saying that one should protect the precepts as carefully as one protects one's eyes. This is a common analogy. Among the various kinds of yaks, there is a particular and unique kind known as the Dzo. This creature cherishes and deeply loves its own tail even more profoundly. We, as ordinary people, are just like this specific yak that possesses such an intense affection for its tail, especially strongly attached to external material things. With such intense desires and deep emotional attachment, we ultimately end up binding ourselves completely. It's exactly like a person born completely blind, who cannot see any visual form at all. In our world, there are countless sentient beings lost in ignorance, unable to see the true nature of all phenomena. Originally, there is no self, yet we cling to the idea of a self. All phenomena are inherently impermanent, but we regard them as permanent. They are inherently impure, but we consider them to be pure. They are inherently empty, yet we truly believe they actually exist, and so on and so forth. In fact, they are indeed empty in reality. We all have many prejudices and unconscious biases. Although we have perfectly functioning eyes, what we actually see is only the very superficial surface appearance. So, from the perspective of our inner mind, we are still like blind people in our ignorance. All ordinary people truly, in everything they do and say, are always acting with a mind that is clouded by ignorance and misunderstanding. This is not in any way meant to slander sentient beings, nor is it to disparage reality. In fact, if we use our own wisdom to observe, we can question whether the things we believe exist actually exist or not. Some people think, I definitely exist, I can see myself, but does seeing something prove it exists? Some say, I can touch it with my hands, so it must exist. But is that the case? Some believe that they themselves exist. Then, if you observe with the wisdom of the middle way, how exactly do you exist? When you just observe in this way, you'll find that we sentient beings have many confusions and blind spots. If we ourselves are indeed truly aware of this, in fact, we truly need to use the profound truth to open up our inherent wisdom. We sentient beings, in our current state, do not actively seek the supreme state of perfect Buddhahood or the ultimate Buddhahood itself, nor do we genuinely seek the liberating dharma that effectively eliminates all suffering, and regrettably, we are often deeply and profoundly entangled in such a pervasive web of wrong views and misconceptions. Using suffering to try to eliminate suffering. We are originally seeking one kind of suffering to get rid of another suffering, but this is very difficult. If we create the causes of suffering and then try to eliminate suffering, that is impossible. What we should do is to eliminate suffering itself by following the path described in the Four Noble Truths: suffering, origin, cessation, and path. Only by first eliminating the truth of the origin can we attain the result. So it's actually very easy to give rise to compassion for these sentient beings. Why did the Buddha also feel compassion for sentient beings? The reason is that many of our actions as sentient beings are aimed at seeking happiness, but the causes we create are of suffering. That is why we sentient beings are miserable. As stated in the Avatamsaka Sutra, out of pity for all sentient beings, I give rise to bodhicitta. Because sentient beings are so pitiable, indeed, truly worthy of compassion. Avatamsaka Sutra also, for countless eons he diligently accumulated the merit of wisdom. The Buddha first saw how pitiable sentient beings were, and thus gave rise to unsurpassed bodhicitta. Moreover, over countless eons, the Buddha accumulated the resources of wisdom. Even for the Buddha, accumulating these resources was not easy, if we wish to liberate sentient beings. If we cannot do so over countless eons, then least we must spend years or decades accumulating wisdom and merit before we are to help others achieve liberation. If you are empty inside, and you try to share with others, you will likely encounter difficulties. Therefore, the Buddha, out of compassion for sentient beings, gave rise to bodhicitta. After rise to bodhicitta, he was not like some of us who say, oh, I have generated bodhicitta, I keep generating it. If one hand isn't enough, I'll use both hands. I want to generate bodhicitta. But after that, if you don't study anything or accumulate anything, then what you have generated is an empty bodhicitta. But later, in actual practice, you might not even help a single sentient being around you. You don't help others. If in our hearts we don't have the intention to benefit sentient beings, even if you speak beautifully, in reality you are not actually benefiting sentient beings. The Avatamsaka Sutra also says the same thing. Therefore, for the sake of all sentient beings, the Buddha also gave rise to great compassion. We can also reflect on this statement ourselves. The sentient beings around us are truly like this as well. All their emotional attachments, all their deeply deluded clinging, and all their misguided desires. When it comes to genuine liberation or true spiritual practice, they have no interest in these things at all. Some people really like to drink alcoholic beverages. Today I actually met someone who said he especially truly loves to drink alcohol very much. When there's no alcohol, he feels uncomfortable inside. He clearly knows that drinking is very bad for his health, but his habits are just too strong. He simply can't help it. The ingrained habits are far too strong, just way too strong. So all we can really do is give rise to genuine compassion and understanding. Whether it's the political leaders of the entire world today, or some of the business people in the world, or even those so-called relatively successful people, although they have their successful side, they also have many afflictions within their minds, and they also have many inherent faults within themselves. So the people around us, you see, humans are actually a bit better off. More importantly, beings in hell, hungry ghosts and animals, are even more pitiable. So if we ourselves truly have some years of study and years of listening and contemplation, then in the future, when we help sentient beings, it won't be for our own self-promotion, for our own sake. Nowadays, many people are really good at promoting themselves in all kinds of ways. A lot of different people have often told me, you Khenpos aren't really actually that powerful at all, but the dedicated people working under you are even much more capable. Their organizational teams are remarkably strong, their speed is impressive, and their motivation is good as well. No matter, as long as it benefits sentient beings, acceptable. But if it doesn't benefit sentient beings, no matter how successful or popular you are, it's actually all empty and meaningless. If you truly have an altruistic mind that benefits sentient beings, many things will naturally fall into place. In the past, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok would often, when we went to visit him, we would often find him holding a small, intricately carved red mala in his hand, a constant companion. It truly seemed as though he was not at all like us, always incredibly busy every single day, to the significant point where we genuinely don't even have sufficient time to properly eat our instant noodles. He was absolutely not like that at all. But for some great accomplished masters, their activities of spreading the Dharma and benefiting beings happen naturally and effortlessly. Whereas for some busy, petty people, no matter how much they try to make themselves look big and strong, in the end, the benefit they bring to sentient beings may not actually be that great. So sometimes, when we compare ourselves to the actions of the great masters and our lineage teachers, there really are many significant and profound differences. We can clearly feel this ourselves, but we should still diligently do our very best to actively eliminate and completely cut off our selfish desires, because a selfish mind, no matter what the circumstances in this world, will always lead to negative outcomes. Ultimately has no real meaning at all, no true meaning. If we truly have an altruistic mind, then it doesn't matter what others say or think, or what others constantly discuss and debate. It doesn't really matter at all. If it truly benefits all sentient beings everywhere, then others' harsh comments and critical judgments are things we can't stop anyway. But as long as it benefits the majority of sentient beings, as someone who has generated the great bodhicitta of the Mahayana, we should choose to actually do it. We should take concrete action. What exactly is this talking about then? It's about the Buddha's great compassion for sentient beings. Then the Buddha said, "From the moment I first sat in meditation, or began to diligently practice the path to spiritual accomplishment and enlightenment," that is, when he went to the Vajra seat in India, contemplating the tree and also practicing walking meditation, he deeply contemplated the sacred Bodhi tree, sitting cross-legged beneath its sheltering branches and meditating profoundly, and also diligently practice walking meditation. As for walking meditation, the perspective described in this scripture is also the same in Tibetan texts. They are quite similar. On one hand, at that time, he was meditating under the Bodhi tree at the Vajrasyat in India, observing the nature of mind. On the other hand, it was also specifically to further stabilize and gradually mature his deep meditative concentration practice. He was also constantly and mindfully circumambulating, slowly walking around in peaceful contemplation. Some sutras do not explicitly mention walking, but here, walking meditation is indeed included. After attaining such profound spiritual realization for exactly 21 consecutive days, 3 times 7s, Buddha remained in silence. During those 21 days, he contemplated how to benefit sentient beings after his attainment. Through diligently circumambulating and deeply contemplating the sacred Bodhi tree, he finally attained profound and ultimate enlightenment. After achieving this state of supreme wisdom, he pondered extensively and deeply how he could effectively share such a transformative and liberating state of understanding with all sentient beings. Because he had attained unparalleled wisdom, that is, the subtle, supreme, and profoundly intricate Dharma, which is the ultimate truth in the world. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, what we previously discussed as the profound, tranquil, play-free, luminous, unconditioned Dharma, This ancient sacred text has also been very carefully translated. It exists in classical Chinese Buddhist literature as well. The great Avatamsaka Sutra clearly states, "I have personally attained the precious nectar of the completely unconditioned Dharma, profound, tranquil, entirely free from all worldly defilements. All sentient beings are currently unable to truly comprehend it. Therefore, I remain in complete silence in a quiet place." All sentient beings are unable to comprehend it. It means that all sentient beings cannot realize or understand it. Therefore, I remain in silence in a quiet place. So in a quiet place, he abides in silence. At that time, he had already realized the nectar of the unconditioned Dharma we just mentioned, as well as the profound, tranquil, and undefiled aspects. We call it the unconditioned, the truly luminous one. But here, in the Avatamsaka Sutra, at that particular time, it also utilized an earlier version. I am currently unsure who precisely translated it. I have unfortunately forgotten. There is also scriptural evidence for this within it. This scriptural evidence is still from an ancient translation. He attained such profound and subtle wisdom. But later, as he had just mentioned, he said that since all sentient beings could not fully realize it, he remained in complete silence, in a quiet and secluded place. Because sentient beings possess particularly dull faculties and are often deluded by their strong attachment to worldly pleasures and profound ignorance, they struggle to comprehend deeper truths. How could these sentient beings possibly be those whom I can liberate? When the Buddha first thought about this, he had attained such a profound, luminous, unconditioned and play-free state. But sentient beings are so caught up in their discriminating thoughts and attachments. Actually, sometimes when we receive this Dharma, whether it's the Dharma of emptiness or some Mahayana teachings, the people around us seem to be worse off one after another. What's the actual point of explaining it to them? Many people often develop an aversion toward the group, or simply do not turn the wheel of Dharma. This kind of situation does indeed occur. At first, the Buddha also initially intended not to teach the Dharma. Of course, this is also a manifestation. In fact, within this profound manifestation, the inherent nobility and supreme loftiness of the sacred Dharma are clearly highlighted. This is also extremely very important. At that precise time, great Brahma, mighty Indra, the four great heavenly kings, along with Maheshvara and countless other celestial heavenly beings and their vast retinues, were present. All respectfully joined their palms together and requested Shakyamuni Buddha to turn the wheel of Dharma. First was the Brahma with the distinctive conch-shaped hair. This particular Brahma with the conch-shaped hair took it especially seriously and was indeed the first to request the Dharma. Later, the revered Brahma and Indra made significant offerings of the Dharma wheel and a beautiful conch shell. They used these sacred items to request the Dharma. Requesting the Dharma is indeed very important. Since ancient times, many sutras and treatises have also mentioned this. Although there is nothing stingy about the Dharma, but the profound and deeply significant teachings should always be respectfully requested by the devoted disciples. If you do not make the request, generally, even great monks and accomplished masters will not turn the wheel of Dharma. Sometimes even the most remarkable wise people in the world, if no one requests teachings from them, they have no way to pass them on. I've mentioned this before, haven't I? There was an old Khenpo in our monastery. No one requested teachings from him, so he never taught. In recent years, he couldn't even see the text at all. At that time, many people requested teachings from him. He would use a large magnifying glass, which made things very troublesome. So, generally some old Dharma teachers and old Khenpos, even when their eyesight is good and all the conditions are right, if no one requests teachings, well, nothing happens. Especially in their own monasteries, among people they know, people tend to think. Among us Tibetans, there's a saying, the old woman of Lhasa does not go to see the Jowo Buddha statue. She feels it's something she sees all the time. There was an old woman in Lhasa who thought, people from all directions come here to pay homage to the Buddha statue. But she felt it was so close by, and the Jowo Buddha statue was always there. In the end, she passed away, and in her whole life, she never actually saw it. So sometimes the great masters around us, and those with authentic lineages nearby, people just don't go to them. Instead, some who are not genuine, whose discipline is not pure, and whose wisdom is insufficient, and are very good at self-promotion, but have no bodhicitta in their hearts, these kinds of people are extremely popular in the world. But these people are good at talking, because they lack bodhicitta in their mind streams, and if they don't have genuine realization and attainment, then for sentient beings, even if they teach some Dharma, it may not actually be very beneficial. So when we seek a teacher, that a teacher should truly possess profound wisdom and deep compassion. In this way, even if he merely teaches 4 lines of valuable dharma, or even just provides a single brief session, it will naturally have a profound and powerful impact on the minds of sentient beings, or serve as a great source of inspiration. In the past, when the precious guru gave just 1 or 2 teachings, it seemed that for several days afterwards, some of his words would keep echoing in our ears, making us realize, wow, this is so important. For example, when he spoke about the biography of the Buddha, at first glance it seemed like just an ordinary story, nothing particularly special, but the profound personal faith and deep reverence that His Holiness had for the Buddha truly and deeply moved all of us who were listening. If he spoke about certain states of Vajrayana teachings, such as the states of Dzogchen, or the states described in Madhyamaka, it would make us especially want to devote our whole lives to practicing that dharma. Such thoughts would arise. So the tradition of requesting teachings also began with the Buddha turning the wheel of dharma. At that precise historical time, the enlightened Buddha also, in outward appearance, solemnly declared, "I will not teach the dharma, I will not teach the dharma, I will go into complete seclusion in a quiet, peaceful forest." Fortunately, great Brahma and mighty Indra came together respectfully, holding several long white silk katas, and humbly requested him to turn the wheel of dharma. At that time, the Buddha reflected, if I praise only the one vehicle of Buddhahood, the vehicle of emptiness, then sentient beings submerged in the ocean of suffering will have no way out and will not be able to develop faith in his teachings. They might even break the sacred dharma, slander the profound dharma, destroy the very dharma, and completely lose their faith. Because of this, they would inevitably fall into the 3 lower realms. Therefore, I would much rather not teach the dharma and quickly enter into nirvana. This is what he said at first as well. If sentient beings could not accept the profound dharma when it was taught to them, the deep, peaceful, luminous and unconditioned dharma that the Buddha had realized, then if he were to teach it, many sentient beings would be just like when the great Master Bodhidharma first came to ancient China. Many profound teachings could not be easily accepted and might even be harshly slandered by people. Sentient beings would also fall, and the harm would be even greater. So at first he intended to manifest entering nirvana, but at that moment he suddenly remembered that the Buddhas of the past had also actually practiced skillful means. So he thought, today I too should, in the same way, make use of such skillful means as I have received before. Therefore he recalled his past experiences and decided to teach the profound dharma of the 3 vehicles to all sentient beings. While he was deeply contemplating this, the Buddhas from all 10 directions also miraculously manifested their divine forms, appearing before him, and praised and comforted him with Brahma sounds, saying, "Shakyamuni Buddha, you are truly remarkable. Teaching the Dharma of the 3 vehicles is the most suitable. You are the foremost teacher, and it is truly hard for anyone in this entire world to compare to you. What you have attained is the unsurpassed Dharma, and you are also following in accordance with all the Buddhas of the past. If you use such skillful means to expound the Dharma, then indeed it will be profoundly beneficial for all sentient beings." The revered Buddha, specifically Shakyamuni Buddha, compassionately taught us that we too have been incredibly fortunate to obtain and receive this most sublime, truly unique and unparalleled Dharma gate. Moreover, for the benefit of sentient beings, it is also very appropriate to teach the Dharma of the 3 vehicles. If the Dharma of the 3 vehicles were not taught among sentient beings, there are some whose wisdom is quite shallow, and they delight in minor teachings, the lesser vehicle, and some worldly dharmas. They do not truly believe in the profound and truly unique one-vehicle Dharma. Therefore, if he chooses to skillfully and wisely expound the Dharma in various and diverse ways, he will be able to guide them. Gradually, all these sentient beings will also eventually attain perfect Buddhahood. By skillfully teaching the 3 different vehicles, he temporarily benefits these countless sentient beings through compassionate guidance. In the end, it is only for the sake of teaching and transforming bodhisattvas, when they ultimately reach the final, supreme stage of the 3 vehicles, he will compassionately guide and profoundly transform these sentient beings. The Buddha then told Shariputra, "You should certainly know this. After I heard the profound and subtle lion's roar of the Buddhas of the 10 directions just now, I then chanted, 'Namo to all Buddhas.'" There are several ways to interpret the phrase Namo to all Buddhas. One is that it is praise and rejoicing in the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. At the same time, the Buddha also promises to follow the ultimate and profound meaning of the Buddhists. However, the Buddhas of the 10 directions expound the Dharma, and I will also diligently follow their intentions. He then thought, I am living in a degenerate world, but all the Buddhas praise me in this way, and if they acknowledge the Dharma I teach in this way, then I too will teach the Dharma of the 3 vehicles in accordance with them. After thinking in this particular way, he then went to Varanasi, which is what we commonly call the deer park in India. Indeed, he went to that very deer park. If one were to teach the profound aspect of emptiness, the complete quiescence of all phenomena, which is truly inexpressible, he did not, however, teach it in that specific way. Instead, he skillfully used various effective means to teach the 5 ascetics. Of course, I won't go into extensive detail here about the intricate process of guiding the 5 ascetics. He taught them the Dharma of the 4 Noble Truths. Initially, he did not truly teach the most profound teachings. He did not explain the deeper, profound aspects of the 2nd and 3rd turnings of the sacred Dharma wheel. He expounded the 4 Noble Truths mainly to the 5 ascetics and other beings. After this teaching, many of them attained the fruit of arhatship. 80,000 heavenly beings also attained complete liberation, and so on. This profound method is what we truly call turning the wheel of Dharma, and from that time onward, in our world, the sound of nirvana began to be heard. The concept of arhatship was also introduced, as well as the names of the 3 jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Therefore, since countless eons ago, what the Buddha truly praised was the one ultimate Dharma of nirvana. But in manifestation for the ultimate benefit of all sentient beings and for their ultimate well-being, if all the birth and death of sentient beings were to be completely ended, he expounded the teachings of the 3 vehicles to liberate these countless sentient beings, thus fulfilling his ultimate aspiration. The Buddha said, "This is what I have always taught." The way the Buddha taught, we should also follow in the same manner. So, what is the main topic we are discussing here today? The main focus is always on skillful means. I also sincerely hope that our dedicated Dharma teachers and our devoted Buddhist practitioners will learn to wisely apply skillful and expedient means in the modern world effectively. As long as we have proper skillful means, many things can be accomplished. For example, take the environment you are in. If you know that this environment is very harsh, you can also find a skillful way to deal with it. If you need to interact with someone whose character is very bad, and you have no choice but to rely on them, but in your heart you also feel, oh, this person's character is really bad, then in the way you truly rely on them, you should indeed consider what is very much needed. This is very important. Some of us don't understand skillful means at all. We are just straightforward and direct. Many people even say, I'm very straightforward, I have a strong personality. But when your personality encounters some adverse circumstances, no matter how straightforward you are, if you are too rigid, it's very easy to break and shatter completely. So sometimes we still need to bend when it's time to bend, be upright when it's time to be upright, be gentle when it's time to be gentle, then be firm when it's time to be firm. So we need to learn this method of skillful means ourselves. All right, that's all for today.
Sonam dei tamse vogaya tonne de dhamma pase tirgana jirano chupai chupun sonen droja
bandangara badna asadarda bandangara badna asadarda bandangara badma asadarda